I'm seeing a lot of agencies run themselves to the ground because they're not forward thinking. When I talk to my team, I talk about what are we doing this year and what am I thinking about where we need to be 3 years from now, and slowly building towards that.
But they're not going to be as efficient as your team in the office.
Yeah.
We're also maybe mixing together culture and efficiency.
If you turn into a remote-based company where all people have to do is output and there's nothing else around that, it's all you are is a paycheck.
I don't think company culture is working really hard. It's really just being proud of what you're doing and giving it your all because you really want to be a part of it. It's not just one thing. It's a multitude of things. It could be the return of office that's happening. It could be a world of culture. It could also be the third thing that I think about, which is up-leveling talent. Hey, Amer, are you going to win the $10,000?
I'm not talking to you.
All right, that's going to be a really quiet. It's going to be a really good pod then, huh?
Awkward next hour.
Or it's going to be pretty short and sweet.
So, we're chatting, and all of us, wouldn't hurt to lose a couple of pounds. So we made a bet because that's the best way to motivate us. Mm-hmm. So winner gets $10,000. That means at stake is $2,500 each if you lose, and it's whoever. What does it go till June 1st?
June 1st.
June 1st. Whoever loses the most weight, but it's proportionally, right?
Yeah,
so
percentage.
Percentage
of body, because we're not all the same height.
And Brian's winning because he's ordering cheesesteaks at 10:30.
Yeah. Brian pretty much last night guaranteed he's not in first place.
Yeah.
And also, there's a second part to that, Luz, is that you have to wear a custom-made T-shirt, right?
Yeah, so if you come in last...
Brian's going to make you a T-shirt, or himself a T-shirt.
Or myself, yeah. That you have to wear for one full day of Commerce Roundtable San Diego.
At San Diego.
And it could say anything.
Yes. We hope...
we're not going to get you canceled, but...
We're not going to get you canceled. But it won't be...
Amaris will say something about how he loves meat.
Loves meat.
Can't hear love meat.
I only eat things with mothers.
I only love
I'm not
mothers.
going to lose.
You're not going to lose?
No.
I don't know.
I'm already down quite a bit.
Yeah, but you got to sustain. That's the goal.
I will.
Yeah. June's a long way away.
I will be at 180 by then.
You did have the most weight to lose out of all of us, I think.
No, I didn't. No, I did not.
All right, we're shooting this thing in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the ASOM Pod, where we talk a lot. E-com is the path that we walk a lot. From 4 point of views when we're talking shop. Amir from the agency and Jimmy from SaaS. John has an Android, but give him a pass. Cause he's an operator building brands like a carpenter. And that's Brian, he is the marketer. Like I said, this the ASOM Pod, where we talk a lot. E-com is the path that we walk a lot. From 4 point of views when we're talking shop.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the ASOM Pod, a sober perspective from the eyes of an agency, SaaS operator, and a marketer focused on the D2C, e-commerce, and retail space. Don't be hangry, Amir. John Roman. We're going to start on introducing John Roman, Android-loving survival king. What is up, dude?
Good, man.
You good?
Good to be here.
You ready? All right. And then we got Amer Grasinic, Prince of Bosnia, Mayor of Chicago. Dude, you're really embracing these things, aren't you?
Oh, the mayor of Chicago.
The fake meat guy.
The fake meat guy. I like that.
Mayor Brandon Johnson, I'm coming for you.
Oh, spicy. And then we've got the real meat guy, the self-proclaimed funniest dude on LinkedIn. What's going on, dude? How you doing?
I'm doing better than I was last night. A mayor locked me out of the Jack and Joe bathroom. That splits our rooms together.
So you didn't have a bathroom all night?
All night.
Oh, my God.
I was not, because he...
That's lower. Yeah, he couldn't hear you knocking, right? Because he had his hearing aids out?
Jack got to use it, but not Jill.
When I came this morning, it was the first thing.
He had to let everyone know. And my name is Jimmy Kim. I'm the moderator, the brain, the man of the people, the email dude. First things first, as you guys heard, if you heard and you want to join us, hear our banter, hear us talk, hang out with us, we have a live event happening on April 25th in Miami, and then of course one in San Diego after that in September. However, it's called commerceroundtable.com. It's focused on the D2C, e-commerce, and retail space. Secondly, if you want to hear our banter and you want to hear our hot takes, you should subscribe to our newsletter. You can find that at awesompod.com. Amir, why are you intently staring at me? No? Okay. I like how he's staring at me. All right. Well,
I was going to interrupt you, but I changed my mind.
Okay. Today, we're doing an episode about the change in team structures that is occurring out there, the changes to what we call from the Great Resignation to the challenges in finding a job ultimately, right? We went from a big pendulum swing from 2021, 2020 to where we are today. Even though we're only seeing a 4% unemployment rate in the world, it seems that the media continues to push layoffs and budget cuts across not just e-commerce, but agencies and tech giants alike. Is this the new normal? Or is this a correction from the hiring frenzy over the last few years? And let's not forget, AI has made a big significant change in how individuals are ultimately 10xing their ultimate productivity, right? That's something that we got to think about. So today, in today's pod, we're going to discuss the factors and why we're continuing to see these shifts. We're going to go around the room and ask everyone a few questions about essentially what's happening and their kind of hot takes. So let me start by setting the stage here as we get into this discussion, right? We saw a massive spike in hiring sprees in e-commerce, agencies, big tech, think Google, Meta, Amazon. Now we're seeing layoffs, right? Pay cuts, reorganizations, that's what they call them, reorganization. And actually lately on Meta, they just did a performance cut ultimately, which I think is even a crazier thing that's happening. It wasn't just them. Remember, Intuit did it first, and then now Meta came out with it, which will mean the trend will continue to happen. And let's be honest, all right? I'm going to be real honest. Performance cuts definitely need to happen. I know that they're doing it in a way where they're focusing on a large group of individuals instead of focusing on a one-on-one aspect. There's a lot of hot takes there, I'm sure, we can talk about. But the reality is people are laying off thousands and thousands, and they're citing over hiring, performance, all that good stuff that comes into place. And the question that I have, and when I start with it, is it that people need more grinders and more strategists who leverage AI, or is there a hiring sweet spot that's really occurring? Like, what is your take with everything that's changing right now in the world? I'm going to start with you, Amer, who's staring at me intently. Amer, how do you feel about your... Oh, he's already done talking, so let's go to Brian. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Amer.
Oh, this is the type of recording we're going to be. Okay. I mean, to me, it's hard. Like, when we look at the Metas and the Intuits, and we had some deep conversations about this, it is... I see both sides. And I think one side is you have to weed out people who are not contributing if you want to keep growing the company. The other side to me is more, are these companies doing enough to coach people properly to elevate them to do a better job? So there's that one part. And the second part where it comes in is what you alluded to is, are they being trained, whether it is with AI and enabled with AI? Are they, sent to conferences to be developed? Like, one of the things you asked me, a couple of things that has been really making me think, Jimmy, was, am I sending my team to sales conferences? Not conferences like a Sub Summit or a Commerce Roundtable, but things that are going to help them develop. I think we're in a world today where it doesn't necessarily have to be an in-person conference, it can be online and things like that. So I think companies need to do or need to figure out what they need to do to develop talent to help them achieve their goals. But I also think there's a responsibility of the employee to take self-initiative to create a larger and better value for themselves so they can perform better for the organization they're committed to.
But that's one thing, but a lot of these are budgetary in many reasons.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think about that?
I don't think they're budgetary, because I think what we're going to see, just like the way you've seen with Intuit, they're going to cut it. There's going to be a month or two, and then there's going to be a new flood of talent that they're hiring.
So do you think it's a let's get rid of the ones that didn't work out and hire new ones? Is that the way you're thinking about it?
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen.
And so Salesforce, it's been a minute now, but Salesforce did that big layoff. I have a buddy that was caught in the layoff. He was then hired the next week back for the same position for more money. So a lot of it is smoke and mirrors. I think when we're talking about the Intuit or the Salesforce or the Microsoft, when you get that size, I think organically bloat occurs because it's so many people. And
but we're not seeing it just at the large companies. Even though we're talking about large companies, we're seeing it in the smaller organizations too out there. The 40, 50 person companies, the 20 person companies, they're reorging, doing layoffs, they're doing budget cuts. I know tech companies are doing every day right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, so like if we're, the thing I was going to talk about was on the e-commerce D2C side. I'll get into that.
Yeah.
I think the B2B side, the SaaS side, I think that's a little bit different, right? Because that's part of the scale up and part of the model of building the teams before they're absolutely needed.
I think with smaller companies, it's a little bit different. I think I actually wrote about this on LinkedIn not too long ago. There was a great article, and we've spoken about it before. I think a lot of smaller SaaS companies that raised a lot of money 2 years ago, they're in a very tough position. They can't go IPO. They can't necessarily raise money at the same level anymore.
Yeah, the down round is not.
Yeah,
not good.
so I think the cash flow is a bigger impact to the smaller SaaS companies than it is to the Intuits or Salesforces of the world.
Brian, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. So on like the e-com side, the direct to consumer side, I don't think it was as big of a problem, right? I don't think there was that much hiring proportionally. BattleBox, for example, during that rise, we only added 3 people: a CS rep, additional marketer, and someone on the operations side. Now, we're probably taking a conservative approach to begin with. We've always been that way, kind of slow and steady. But even some of the other brands, I don't think they were affected as much as technology and the large companies. But I think with certainty now, that validation of our approach, that's the right approach. We saw recently a brand that's just hiring the world, and like, in my humble opinion, that model doesn't work anymore for direct to consumer brands.
But a lot of this is because you're forecasting growth, right? That's the model that we're talking about. People were forecasting growth, and they were thinking, hey, I'm going to go out and grow from 20 million to 30 million or 40 million. I need these people to help me grow there, because it's not impossible, but it's really hard to grow when I don't have the humans in the heads and the people trained up for that.
Yeah, but I think the flaw with that, you're 100% right. That's why they do it.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. I think the flaw is that that exponential growth is the right approach for the brands. I think the reality is it brings too many variables of risk that brands just can't take in this current economic climate. It's not, the risk is too great.
Brian,
I just think it's
what's
not the
your
right
take
move.
here? What do you got thinking about? I see you crossing your arms. It's the thought thinking thing.
We actually just laid off. We used to have 4 retail sales reps in 4 territories. So we hired, this is a couple years ago, and this is sort of when things were winding down, but still on the, check in at the local pet store that carries your product, meet with Jerry. Hey, Jerry, want to go grab a cup of coffee? Make sure your stuff's coming in, right? You needed your foot soldiers out there knocking on the doors of the businesses that you want to get into and the ones that you're already in to keep those relationships going. And reality is that in the pet industry, at least, in most industries, is that's not the case anymore. So we were spending, over almost $200,000 a year on salaries, bonuses, travel, lodging, you name it. When in reality, Adam took a step back and said, "Hey, Rob he's our best guy. He crushes it. He has his own retail store as well, so he has different approach and knowledge to it. But let's just have Rob run the whole country and do most of it remotely."
Yeah.
And so we were able to unfortunately, we did have to do it, but we laid off 3 of the 4 sales guys.
So
and
it was
now,
an efficiency play.
Yep, for sure. And revenue's gone through the roof in retail.
Interesting.
Because now we have our best guy at all the doors instead of decent guys at all the doors.
And I get that, right? If you think about it, when you think about people and efficiencies and maximizing it, you can create laziness when you have too many people not doing enough of the work, right?
For sure.
Sometimes they say the people who outperform the best are the people who are kept busy.
Yeah.
Have a lot of tasks and responsibilities on their plate, and they feel like they have a responsibility to the business and the company to go. And not only that, people who are grinders or high achievers ultimately will also work harder because they have that feeling behind it, right? There's a sentiment to that. Amer, I'm going to talk to you about this because agencies are another one that actually kind of experience this in what I've seen. Not maybe your agency. I'm not talking about your agency here. Broadly in agency terms. A lot of them hired a lot of people because they had more demand, more need, and then they had to fire and terminate. And I've heard of a lot of agencies coming back. There's been reasons from tools to needs and clientele to all sorts of things going on, or brands not spending as much with agencies. What's your take here?
We spoke about that. I experienced that 23 into 2024, and we had to do a few layoffs in the middle of the year as well.
Yeah, but not your agency. I'm talking about right now, we're seeing other agencies do this.
With the other agencies, so depends. So we're exclusively a Shopify agency, and we're very lucky to be in the, what I say, a top tier of Shopify plus agencies and service providers. The agencies that I'm talking to that I'm very close to a lot of our competitors and that we compete on deals, they're looking to expand because they're slowly looking into and forecasting where is the Shopify landscape going to be 1, 2, 3 years from now. We're doing the exact same thing, but the expansion is a lot more calculated. For example, the next person I bring in, my thing is, am I creating a new channel? And are they going to be able to own that channel or bring additional revenue? If I'm plugging somebody into an existing channel and dividing that revenue, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I think I see a lot of agencies doing that. One of the ways that a lot of them are doing is similar to SaaS. They're expanding their services. So, they have 50, 60, 80 retainers. And I was like, okay, we're getting $8,000 a month. How can we go to 12 to 16 to 20,000? I'm seeing a lot of agencies do that now. On the flip side, I'm seeing a lot of agencies run themselves to the ground because they're not forward thinking. When I talk to my team, I talk about what are we doing this year and what am I thinking about where we need to be 3 years from now, and slowly building towards that. So in case something does happen that my prediction is wrong, we have time to pivot. We didn't overinvest and outstretch ourselves.
What do you guys think? Okay, so Brian, John, you two were talking last night about a tech company. We're not going to name him, but you guys made a funny statement. He said, all the people that I know there are all gone now, right?
Yeah.
And obviously they've gone because of layoffs and different things that have happened. What's your take when you guys hear that, or how do you guys feel towards the sentiment of that when you guys are listening to that?
So it's tough, but in the case of that one, I think it's just cyclical of SaaS in general. When SaaS follows this life cycle, and at a certain point, a certain chapter, this well.
Yeah.
You have to clean house, and you have to bring in people that are not stuck in old ways, that are thinking of how to get it from 2.0 to 3.0 or whatever the next iteration is. It's sad, but I respect and I understand why it happens.
Do you really think it's necessary to do that?
I think it's necessary if your board consists of members that are on other boards that have successfully pulled it off, and it is the most acceptable playbook for SaaS. I think, yeah.
Okay.
Would I do it? Probably not, but I don't know if that means that they're wrong and I'm right.
What about you, Brian? How do you think about this? Like, what do you see or feel as a customer on the other side? I'm curious about that because of all these things are changing. Do you believe that they are, to John's point, like they're doing it because they want to be more mean and lean and they need to change over? Or do you feel other things when you're a merchant? I'm curious about this because it's a unique perspective.
Yeah, no, I don't like it at all. I think the one thing that good SaaS companies have over the rest of their competitive field is the fact that they have account managers and people in charge that build relationships with those merchants. And when you are sort of in the dark in regards to an issue arises, or you want to talk to someone and you don't even know who to reach out to anymore, or you can't even get an answer from someone, or when they get so big that you don't even know who to go to in regards to even sending an email to get something resolved. And I think once you start doing that, it becomes very hard as a merchant because ultimately, yes, you're paying for the software, but the thing that's going to keep me using the software and retained on the software is having a relationship with someone from that software company.
Yeah. And secondly, when I think about this, and I think this is something that I've thought about as you guys are talking about this, and you're talking about SaaS. Let's just talk about them because it's easiest to talk about. SaaS or tech, right? Like when we talk about them. Companies are forecasting growth, but they miss their growth target, which means that they've got to make adjustments. And sometimes they make their adjustments and they find their path back to where they need to go, but they stop hiring because they were afraid to hire now at this point, and they want to go more lean. The real question that I've been really wondering lately is that Were we always over bloated? And was that part of the problem, that people relied on people too much and they didn't realize that they could get the right technology like AI put into place, or really pushing their people to be more optimized? Is that part of why you think that this is happening and why the cutbacks are happening in this market?
I think it's a bloat problem.
Yeah, it's is it because, but it's not a bloat problem today. It was a bloat problem over the years of people just freely adding budget on people.
It was just it's always been a bloat problem.
Yeah.
I don't think it's unique now. Yes, we have additional tools like AI that can increase productivity, but I think the bloat problem always exists. I think challenging times require us to actually open our eyes and see it.
I think it's over bloat and over pivot. I'm going to reference the company we talked about last night. I think, Jimmy, you noted you think they're over bloated, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
But the other part too is when SaaS grows and goes from SMB to mid-market to large to enterprise, they think, why I asked that question, that I have to transform the structure and the leadership of the company. My thing is, your SMB and mid-market is killing it. You're owning that market. Keep your best people there. Get rid of the bloat. Create a new channel with people that know enterprise and bring that new, fresh look in, because you can't treat your enterprise client the way you treat your SMB client.
And I would venture in the case of what we're talking about, and many, I would say leadership with certainty probably agrees with you. The problem is when you get that size, there's boards, there's other decision makers. The original leaders that got it to that point are not the final decision maker. I think that's where it gets sideways. That's where it gets funky.
Oh,
because
yeah.
the leaders that we saw them take it to where it is, they're not fully in charge anymore, and that's the problem.
Oh, no, I get that. But I think just looking at the landscape, from me outside looking in, and my analysis could be completely wrong, I think you can keep doing and being a great company to the customers, clients, whatever you want to call them, that got you there. But I think then you can also create new channels to acquire where you want to go.
Oh, I fully agree with you.
Yeah.
I think you're right. But the guy in the fifth seat of the board meeting doesn't care what you think, because he thinks he's the smartest person in the room, and he's protecting that investment. And doesn't matter if your idea is right; it's wrong.
Yeah.
I think there's major stubbornness.
Workspace 6, why struggle alone? Talk to other founders outside of your home. Communities thrive, so slide open your phone. Help you make strides, sit on top of the throne. Oh, whoa, solve your biggest challenges. Oh, whoa, help your checks and balances. Oh, whoa, this is how I salvage it. This a major key alert, just like DJ Khaled is. Apply for a buck, be a part of the workspace. 6:30, helping on your worst days. Surrounded by 9 figures, not in third place. Take a new direction like Mahomes on reverse plays. Yeah, join today, workspace6.io. Tell them Awesome sent you.
So another thing that I'm seeing in this market, and I'd love to discuss this, is there's been a rise of people hiring for freelancers, fractional people, contractors, overseas talent, right?
Yep.
We talk about this, and we're seeing this. Do you think that businesses are often thinking about that and realizing the talent is available in other places? And I think we all have overseas people within all of us in our businesses, but how are you guys thinking about this? Like, Brian, I'm going to go to you about this. Like, I know you guys brought in a couple people from overseas and they've been great, but do you guys the first thing you guys do now when you think about hiring a certain person, do you guys think about going overseas before you start thinking here?
Yeah, if they're not like customer facing, for sure. If it's a data analyst, if it's someone that is an editor, if it's someone in accounting that Adam needs, or an administrative assistant, all of that stuff immediately overseas. And the reason why, and John and I, everyone's been talking about this, is output, right? When you're looking for certain things, you want to be able to protect your investment and not have to worry about spending $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 on someone that you're going to have to hold their hand. When you can hire, 4 people overseas that are going to do 8 people's worth of work for a fraction of the cost. So I think a lot of it is a lot of things that we need as operators and brand owners is ultimately output in order to get us from that SMB level to mid to, it's just all about output. And when you're able to get more output without exponentially increasing your costs, you're in for a home run.
So I was listening to some, if you guys know who Ray Dalio is,
Yeah.
and he was talking about the changing world order. And he was talking about the how the Dutch were the number one, and then the UK eventually took them off. What made Dutch great were the ships, the invention of the ships, and what beat the Dutch was the UK, with the ships just becoming better and better and better. And one of the things they did is the UK hired Dutch architect craftsmen to build their ships, because the cost was significantly, it was a fraction, as much how the arbitrage that existed between stateside and overseas. And that's what the pendulum shift was. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
So the thing I wanted to kind of step into is you made a statement, and I want to make sure I'm clarifying this. You said you could hire 4 people as the output of 8, or is it 8 people the output of 4? Meaning, like, how are you looking when you go overseas?
So, like, here's a great example. For Sophia, who's probably our best data analyst overseas, she's $1,100 a month, and she probably does, Adam thinks 2.5. I think 2 times
The work.
So now you have to hire 2 people in the U.S. for 60 to 70 each. Now you're at 150 in comparison to paying someone
$14,000 a year. Yeah. So hold on. That's a change in what you used to be. It used to be where you would hire 8 people to do 4 people's job.
Yeah, the output's way higher over there.
Yeah, I mean the reality is, proud American, but Americans have become lazier and lazier.
Yeah, for sure.
That's interesting. I mean,
especially for entry level, right?
Yeah.
Especially for entry level.
Which is part of the hierarchy. To get to the higher level, you've got to do the entry level, which is probably why they're realizing it. So do you think part of the lean mean machine that's changing right now is not maybe as the human count, it's more where people are applying their dollars and cents into this world of hiring people? I know you hire everyone overseas. Oh, not everyone, but many people overseas. I mean, why haven't you brought into the U.S.?
Well, I mean, 75% of the companies overseas.
Yeah.
I haven't brought it to the U.S. One, it's cost. It's bigger risk. I can, for example, in India, hire 6 people tomorrow. It will be maybe 2x cost of an employee in the U.S. Within 3 months, I'll know that half will not work out, half will. And I get a greater investment and I reduce my risk. And they are as good as any developer I worked in the States. The States developers, and it's funny, sometimes we collaborate with another agency on something. As soon as they see that our developers are in India, they try to get critical about code, how things were set up and all of that stuff. And it's like, and they get so critical, and I find it funny. And then I usually jump on a phone and defend my team. I was like, how are you going to criticize my team and what they built when you don't know the time frame, you don't know the SOW, you don't know what the ask, what the problem is, and then that developer who thinks an engineer looks like a complete dumbass and sits back in his chair? Like, I will put my developers, the only problem we ever had, which is changing, and I think this is probably what you're alluding to, 10 years ago, there was a cultural problem.
Correct.
And it was hard to work with everybody overseas. Now overseas, and companies are investing for the employees in the workforce to become more westernized. That's being taught in schools. And now even when we inherit employees in India and Bosnia, wherever, our gap between cultures is a lot smaller. And the integration into our workforce becomes a lot easier. Even though we invest into additional training, we have something called merchant mannerisms, how to talk to people, how to record videos. Yeah. We have all of this. Now I'm at a point where when we hire somebody, we have a deck, a presentation deck, where guides them to do their first pitch. Whether you're in Bosnia, whether you're in India or United States, I want you to follow the deck, and I want to hear your ideas. I don't want to teach you anymore. I want to see what you're bringing to the table, to the team. And when I have these conversations, they're incredible. They're as good as I would have with anybody in the States.
So you would say almost that the education is there, right? The cultural side is starting to get there. Even timing, I feel like one thing I've noticed overseas is they're willing to make the adjustments to work the hours that you're asking for. This was always a struggle and a fight in the past, and I feel like that's happening more and more today.
That's their life now. They've adopted
I have 24/7 coverage. 24/7 coverage. No American company with all American developers has that. So whether your website goes down at 1 a.m., 1 p.m., or 9 p.m., to your point, I have my team working.
And one thing too that we so the agency that we the talent agency, it's like the Costco model. But one of the cool things Adam actually did was he checked a box that says a U.S. College degree. So all the people that we hire overseas, all 6 of them, have a bachelor's degree from a U.S. college.
Oh,
so
wow.
interesting.
That's-
Interesting.
All 6 of them.
In Boston, we have
They
a lot of
speak fluent
people
English.
that came to here for education and went back to Boston because of the lifestyle.
That's what they all do over there. They come over here, and this is kind of a screwed up model where like U.S. taxpayers will fund overseas folks to come get an education in the U.S. They take it, go back, and get hired by U.S. in order to live
but it's
over
now
there,
leaving
and it's
our
great.
economy.
And that's why I know we're going through a whole shift right now in the U.S. where like we're trying to bring back manufacturing in the U.S. That ship's gone. It's never going to happen for this reason alone. If you had to hire 100% in the U.S., would you be a profitable business?
I would, but the problem is
I like how you're so confident with that.
the rates that I have would go up. I would have to shift my rates. And it's funny because a lot of people come to us and say, well, can you have American employees work on this? I was like, I can get American employees tomorrow. I was like, but your rate is going to be X amount per hour. And they're like, oh, never mind.
So you're 25%
US.
US and Canada, 75% not.
So-
Really, you think you would be profitable if you had to? So you're
Payroll taxes?
Based on what you said, take that 75% expense of your wages and times it by 3 for what you said earlier on US
More than
versus
3.
India. Well, he said US India 3 to 1.
Okay.
So based on that model, really, I don't.
Yeah. No, I'm saying not based on the model with our current pricing.
But
You'd have to sell at
but
way
now
more
you're
money.
talking risk that raising prices would have the same penetration rate that you currently have. I think it's a big risk.
But that's to me it's a non-applicable question because if you're having higher cost, you can have the same model.
But so then
Yeah.
profitability changes.
Yeah.
Right.
So my team, instead of being 120 something we're right now, it might be 30 or 40. I may emphasize other services.
You're having to make major changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The business model as it is now,
No.
if you had to do US, you would not be profitable.
No.
Correct.
That's so that's
Yeah.
what I'm
That's-
making.
yeah, he was.
Yeah, yeah.
It was more
Oh, good.
simplistic.
High level,
question.
yeah.
Yeah, correct. What you would do was what you would do.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's just too. It's become so expensive to operate in the U.S. now. Manufacturing is even worse. So like the idea that we're going to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. I mean, we own a manufacturing facility. It's very expensive to do it at scale. Is next near impossible. Now you're paying. Your insurance in manufacturing facilities is through the roof. Your payroll taxes, your actual hourly wages are insane. It's to bring back manufacturing in the U.S. is done. It's never coming back.
You don't
Here's a
think
screwed
this
up
is an
card.
efficiency play?
No.
I had
gone.
merchants
It's too
come
expensive.
to me where they work with a overseas employee and a U.S. employee, ask me no longer to work with a U.S. employee.
Interesting. Well, I was going to say to your point about manufacturing, I think what has to happen in manufacturing is we've got to adopt more things that are happening overseas. We got to bring more automation into robotics and AI. Like imagine your factory. I saw people squeezing that stuff into the packaging for OMAs and wrapping it. That can be done by a robot soon.
So
sure.
And when that gets done by a robot, it doesn't have human costs.
I
Right?
work
Some parts can. Yeah, some parts.
with
can
a
be replaced.
merchant in manufacturing, and certain things that are simpler, actually, it's actually funny and easier to make, they manufacture in the U.S. because it's more machine-based. But then they have a lot of things where they have to like cut out sheets and everything like that, and all of that is done by hand in China. Their cost would go up 50x if they had to hire a same employee to do that in China. When China is streamlined, they're super trained, they know how to do it quickly, and that's the only way he stays sustainable.
If True Classics brought their model to the U.S., they'd go bankrupt tomorrow.
Well, yeah, the shirts
Yeah.
wouldn't be $12; they'd be $42. That's exactly the story of why my clothing brand didn't make it. You know that, right? We were a made in the USA company. We were so big on that because we thought that that's what people wanted. So we would get our stuff from LA, we get our fabric from there, we dye it in LA, we get it hand stitched in Orange County. They would go build it up for us, and then we'd sell it. And we were selling this shirt, basically like this shirt, maybe better quality, but we were selling this shirt for $45. This is 2010. 2012, right? So now imagine inflation. It's way more money. And then H&M and all these other companies started coming out with a $20 shirt. We literally were making the shirts for about $9.50 to $12, depending on the shirt and cut and quality, right? We didn't have the margin after advertising and paying people and stuff like that to compete with those people. And eventually it put us in a really weird bind, and we had to go explore overseas. But then we didn't like the overseas because we were a drop model company, and being a drop model company, it didn't work out very well for us. And it killed the business in its own way.
Yeah. We had a brand, an apparel brand too, that we worked with. They were all US made as well. And when they did the calculation, the cost ended up being the same, which, landed costs and everything like that. The problem they had is if somebody was to leave the company, it was hard to find the talent that could replace them, especially in the specific region. So their production would suffer drastically, which screws up with their margins and volume. So they actually ended up going back or moving to overseas because they couldn't find the talent to keep up with everything.
Okay.
Go. Yo, listen up, let me put you on game. OmniSend's got the tools and everything that they claim. Email, SMS, yes, all in one. E-com brands love it cause it gets work done. Yeah, 125K worldwide. Reviews so high, got them beaming with pride. And their stars are 4.8, no joke. Shopify bags, so you know it's dope. Automation so slick, like a self-driving whip. Bring them back with a click, never losing the grip. Easy migration, yeah, that's no stress. Support so strong, got me feeling real blessed. No sneaky fees, no surprise in sight. Ain't calling it alignment just to raise the price. So if growth is the goal and sales on your mind, OmniSend's got the tools, now go get what's mine. Hit OmniSend.com today and watch your brand take off, okay? Oh yeah, and tell them Awesome sent you.
Well, I want to shift from here because instead of talking about why we're seeing this and things like that, I want to talk about morale, company culture. Because I think one of the things that is happening right now is that company culture is being affected. People are losing sight. The visionaries are disappearing sometimes in the company, or the people that were the most important. Though, one of the things that I always see in companies that take layoffs, one of the things I see, sometimes there's people who are laid off that may not be the best workers, but they hold the company together in a very unique and different way, culturally, right? They were the guy, the jokester, the friendly guy, the guy like Brian that might be in there. And I'm not saying Brian doesn't work, but I'm sure Brian's connection in that company makes it funnier, or makes it because he throws jokes and different things, and there's a connection that he creates, right? And this happens pretty often. But the problem that I'm seeing is that when you lean out a company, you risk a lot more problems because not only are the teams less cohesive, but you also risk burnout because you're pushing people and you're not letting them have the creative freedom that they want. What are your thoughts there? What do you guys have to? Brian, I'm going to start with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a big in-person guy. Big, huge, and for a multitude of reasons. One, the company's been around since 1956. People have either died or they've gotten fired.
Yeah.
No one's left. 4 generations. No one said I'm going to take another job or I'm unhappy here. Even since I've been there, no one's ever left. And a big part of that is, even though we do have a lean team, Nina handles all affiliate and social. Morgan and Clancy handle all things CPG, labeling, graphic design, email, etc. And that's it. That's my whole squad. So we are super lean, but everyone is in person and enjoys what they're doing because families all around, they'll come in. There's always something to look forward to outside of the scope of the work that you need to do. And I think if you can bring that to the table, especially as you try to go lean, you keep those core people there that sort of give folks a reason in your company to want to be there outside of their duties, outside of their tasks. Because if you turn into a remote-based company where all people have to do is output and there's nothing else around that, It's all you are as a paycheck.
Well, you're right about that, right? There's this entire return to office motion happening, right? The government to start off with, but JP Morgan, remember I don't know if you guys heard the whole like conversation behind the scenes, internal stuff that spilled out into the market. The Metas of the world, the Salesforces of the world, the Amazons of the world, everyone's returning to office for that specific reason because they believe that not only the work output is weaker, but the culture is unbuilding, right? There's no build of culture. What you just said, we have a cohesiveness. We like to work together. Yeah, they work really hard, but they are appreciative of that, and that doesn't happen. And for myself, I'm a remote guy too, and the thing about remote is that I think the world taking a mass remote approach was the wrong thing. I mean, it was the right thing at the moment. It had to happen, right? But the reality is that it's not for everybody, and that's really what it comes down to. I don't think remote is for everybody, and trying to keep company culture in a remote is really hard, man.
It's tough.
It's really a very different aspect.
There's no company that's remote that has culture.
I disagree.
I disagree with that completely.
I think you have culture.
No.
I think if your entire team was in person 40 hours a week, you would see life from
I do agree with
a totally
that.
different point of view. But you've never seen that.
Yeah.
No, but we still.
No, you've never seen it.
We still replicate it.
No, you don't. How do you replicate it through a screen?
No, we replicate it so.
You meet 5 times a year. Cool.
Yeah.
That's not culture. If you guys, I'm telling you right now.
We have the culture.
If you were together 40 hours a week, BattleBox would be a bigger company.
So
I don't disagree.
A lot bigger company.
But I disagree that we don't have culture.
no,
I think you think you have culture.
Well,
I think we
culture
have
is, it's not that, no. I think everyone has a culture. The culture is different.
Yes, I don't think you have maximized your culture.
so there's two sides
That's
to
what
this.
I mean by
I
that.
agree.
Yeah, that's what I mean by that. Not they don't have culture.
Yeah.
America's got culture.
There's two sides to this.
Yeah.
One side is I believe in-person amplifies your culture. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But also remote removes office politics and issues and contentions that people have.
They still exist.
It's minimized.
Not as bad.
Yeah, not as bad
Okay.
because people don't have as much time together. And
Or they don't care as much either.
Yeah, they don't care. I mean, they do their job. They come in. I do think, and something that I'm always fearful, I try to figure out, like, my thing from culture, one thing I'm big on, and we discussed this, is having a camera on. Because we don't see each other too much. I don't know if a person that's working for me is having a bad day unless I see their face as an example. Where in an office, if they walk in slouched with their head down, I'd go over to them, like, hey, what's going on? How's your day? Try to cheer them up and things like that. And I think from maximizing relationships and digging into people and getting best out of people, being in both methodologies that I worked in person, you just can't replicate it. You can't, but you can kind of emulate it remotely.
Well, and I think culture, as I was trying to say to Brian, is culture is what you make of it, right?
Yeah.
Not every company has to have that kind of culture or the cohesiveness that his company has. I bet you your company culture of in-person probably eliminates the need to have as many people to operate the same amount of work because they're more in depth with
million
the
percent.
I think what you said is correct once we clarify, but I think we're also maybe mixing together culture and efficiency.
Correct.
So,
Yes.
So there's a very great quote actually from a book I'll share later. Culture is a set of living relationships working towards a shared goal. It's not something you are, it's something you do.
I love that. That's very clear.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's 100% the case. So as long as you can align everyone to work towards the exact same goal and you can be transparent about the progress to those goals, you are foundationally creating culture.
But they're not going to be as efficient as your team in the office.
Yeah.
I think we all agree with
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think part of a lot of the things that are happening and ultimately the whole lean machine, it's not just one thing. It's a multitude of things. It could be the return of office that's happening. It could be a world of culture. It could also be the third thing that I think about, which is up-leveling talent. That's certainly a thing that's happening. I know you mentioned it earlier. Your guy got laid off, but then brought back in. They probably realized, hey, this guy probably was important enough in this business. But a lot of these people weren't, right? Because they were skating by. They weren't putting the effort in. They weren't part of the company culture of like the work ethic that they might have wanted to instill, right? They weren't proud of. And I don't want to be clear here. I don't think company culture is working really hard. It's really just being proud of what you're doing and giving it your all because you really want to be a part of it. That's what I think about culture a lot less than, oh, you put in your hours or you work hard or you're putting the best work out there. It's really a belief in what you're doing is something that you actually want to do, waking up in the morning and wanting to actually participate. That's what I think about when you think about culture.
Yeah.
Nacelle is here with new AI tech. Read your customers' minds, isn't that the best? Turn browsers into buyers, collect your checks, showcase what they want through the product rec. Not your average, you may also like the full customer journey on your site. From click to checkout, getting it right. From click to checkout, day or night. Nacelle makes your store smarter than ever. They personalize lives, isn't that clever? Providing smart segmentation that sells better. Deliver perfect picks to shoppers forever. Yeah. Visit nacelle.com now.
All right, so let's continue on here, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit and just kind of going off in here, but let's talk about it, right? What kind of advice can we give people right now, like business owners right now that are thinking about, hey, I'm a little bloated, or I feel like I need to make a cut, or I need to make some adjustments to my team. What can we tell them to do? And I'm going to start with you, Amir, because I feel like you have a lot of advice around this that you like to give around this, but like, what do you give an operator juggling the decision of how to orchestrate their team?
Something I'm sometimes at fault at, and I challenge myself on it. I sometimes always feel my team could potentially be doing more. And it's a question I ask myself from two perspectives. Am I correct? Can we do more? And from the other side, am I wrong, or am I actually burning my team out? The best thing you can actually do is sit down and do specific exercises with your team to understand where you can help them be more efficient, be more productive, be more proud, and listen to what they have to say, just the way we talk about customers. Like one of the exercises we did not too long ago that helped me, I asked my team just for 1 week, every 30 minutes, write down what you're doing. After you write down what you're doing, tell me how could you do that better. And one of the things I started to explore is they're wasting a lot of times on things that we could use automation, AI for, and things like that to streamline that process for them. So it's not just necessarily always, can you get best out of the team? It's sometimes, what can you give them for them to become the best version of themselves?
So a little bit of micromanaging feeling there when you're talking about that potentially. Do you think that it is the managerial level of making sure that you're understanding everyday activities? Like, right, the best coach books, they say, you give a person a task, you step back and get out of the way and do things. But you just told me that you want them to tell you what they're doing and helping them optimize that.
No, so it's different. I think I agree, like you give it to them, you let them be a writer, they can bring it to you and become an editor in a sense. What I'm saying is once a year, whatever, if you're unsure where your team is, whatever, it's not, if you approach this activity from a point of micromanagement, it doesn't work. If you approach this activity as like, how can I help my team enjoy their work more? And how if like, for example, my 4 account managers are struggling with the exact same thing because taking too much time, that might be a signal for me I need to hire them help, or I need to introduce a tool that can help them. But the fact, if you're not in the weeds with your team on every single day, they may not know a tool exists. They may be embarrassed enough to ask for help, and because like everyone else seems to be doing well, where they actually might be sharing the exact same pain point. If you come out of that activity saying you guys are not working hard enough, you failed as a leader. If you come out of that as, you know what, we identified 2 things how we can help you. We're going to introduce this tool, and we're going to free up a little bit more of your time so you can breathe during the day.
Yeah, I feel though you start running against your own inefficiency if you're trying to be that.
That's what I'm saying.
The pulse. Like,
yeah.
like
but you're not on the pulse 24/7. It's once a year.
But you're just okay. So just once a year?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess my approach is similar. If we're talking it, I thought you were saying constant.
No,
pulse
God
check.
no.
I'm a big believer of the swimming pool method.
You throw them in and see if they float?
Yeah, and then once they're swimming, you just catch this, right? And then you keep catching, you keep throwing stuff, and you ensure the entire way that you have open communication, you're talking regularly, you have respect for each other where you're going to be very direct and honest, and you keep throwing them stuff, and with the communication is good, they might have trouble talking because they're drowning, and that's the indicator, okay, well, let's either create efficiency, let's get some stuff off your plate. okay, oh wow, this might be a role if we can add this from over there. I like making people
Yeah.
That's
choke
an
on
cool
water.
method.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I made that up right now.
Did you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
The only difference.
I mean, not the idea, but the name.
yeah, it's the same concept.
What about you, Brian? How do you think about all this?
I actually have a pretty cool perspective. I'm just going to use the CMO role as an example. Most brands will go after and hire the best CMO. That's pretty true, I think, right? They should hire the best leader that's a pretty good CMO. That is going to be a better output and a better ultimate, I guess, efficiency play than hiring the best CMO. I think if you bring someone in that knows how to lead people, knows how to build the company culture and what the company's all about and what the vision and drive is, and is just a really good CMO or a great CMO, that is ultimately going to be a better person than someone who's just a rock star CMO, but a crappy leader.
I think what you're describing, though, I disagree, but agree. What you're describing is the best CMO. Like the bet that's just a maybe.
You're
not
saying
the
less
top
specialized, more.
Less specialized,
Yeah.
more leadership.
Yeah. I think that is the best.
But I feel like a lot of people don't hire leaders anymore.
So they're hiring the best in what lens? How are they defining?
He's
the
talking
best?
about marketing,
Tactical.
Like,
Like
the
they're
best
just
marketing person.
their marketing knowledge.
Tactical.
Yeah, you call it like tactical marketing
Okay.
knowledge, expertise.
I think you're right. I think
Experience.
yeah.
You know,
They're
Is
not
it
looking
same-
at leadership.
they're not looking at leadership qualities.
It's the same thing when we talked about the other day. Usually, best sales guys are not best sales leaders.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's a lot of things. Just because you're really good at something does not make you a good leader at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It
I
just
think
purely
there's
means that you're good at that certain thing.
in the e-com world, D2C world has turned into a numbers game and a tactical play instead of a leadership play. And the best brands and companies in human history were built upon leadership and visionaries and not from a tactical perspective.
Yep.
And that's lost. No one does it anymore.
Oh, there's a lot to it. All right.
Yeah.
I want to shift gears here. Last piece. We're going to the book. Amer, are you ready?
Yeah.
We're going to
Actually,
play some
since-
guru noises.
Going with top
book is
so let's go with culture
Amer
code.
is going to have a
It's-
book. Is there
It's
a book
actually
here?
more.
This one?
Yeah, that one.
Give Amer the book in there. Yep.
There you go.
John, steal the thunder because he stole your thunder.
I already
last
read the
time.
book.
Why don't you
Here's the
tell,
best
why don't
part.
you tell
You
him the
wanna hold it?
TLDR
Page 3.
absolutely
Gonna hold it
quickly?
while
I
I
already
talk?
read it.
All right. Well,
You read it.
Amer's book
All
corner,
right.
where we're going to talk about it today. We're going to be talking about the new gold standard is a book that he's going to be.
No, the culture code.
Oh, the culture code. Sorry.
Yeah, so let's get started. So it's called the culture.
It's called the culture code.
Yeah, here you
He's
go.
going to talk about it. He's going to talk about how it's relevant to this episode and really managing company culture.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Coyle, he's a writer. He wrote the book about its culture code, and the book uses examples really how to get best out of your employees, and he uses a lot of really cool real life examples. And the way he breaks it down, and kind of what you were talking about, Brian, earlier, is how to make your employees feel like they belong, that they're seen, exposing your vulnerabilities as a leader to lighten the ability for them to make mistakes and not to be perfect. And the other one, which is I think the biggest one, is how to have purpose and give them purpose individually and collectively as a team. So one of the things and it's the small things, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, when it comes to belonging is, do you show, do you listen? Do you look people in the eye when you talk to them? Are you remotely, is your camera on? And are you,
This camera on thing is it's a hot
It's
button.
it's really picking on him, huh?
yes,
No,
yes.
it's
There's something deeper
it's a hot,
here.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's dig.
I mean, are you giving siloed attention, or are you answering a Slack message in a remote environment? It's all of those. So like one of the examples is being a Chicago, and I'm sure you know, but Joe Madden, that won the World Series with the Chicago Cubs, he did something very interesting with his players. So he had a very strict policy when it comes to behavior and rule sets and things like that. When a player would make a mistake and break that code, he would invite them to his office. And his office, he had a bowl with a bunch of papers in it. On those papers were written names of different wine manufacturers, wine bottles, wine companies. He would have the player take it out, see what the wine bottle was, tell him to go to the store and buy it, They would come back, he would sit him in his desk, and they would have a glass of wine together. And he would connect with them on a personal level to let them know, look, you're human, you make a mistake, but I need you to buy in this thing for the greater good. And he would talk to them, not to criticize them, but to figure out how to get them there to understand.
Better understand them.
Yeah, to understand why did this happen? Did they have a bad day? Did they make a mistake? So it's not just about you screwed up, you broke the rule, go home. It's, hey, you made a mistake. It's okay. How do I help you be better?
It's like a reverse Portnoy model with the bottles.
What's a reverse Portnoy?
So Portnoy has all of his enemies. Like he has bottles.
And he
with
cracks
their
them
name on
open
them,
when
he
they
cracks
get,
it.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
obviously, literally the opposite.
The opposite, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Another idea like for vulnerability is a lot of leaders don't want to show that they make mistakes, and it puts a lot of pressure on their employees to fail, and failure is actually a healthy thing to learn from. So like one of the things Steve Jobs, and he used this example, that Steve Jobs would go in front of his executives and of his team and say, hey guys, I have this dopey idea. So right away he would criticize himself. It's like, I know it's not that good. So come at me with ideas, how do we make it better? Even if he thought this was amazing, we're going to do it, but the way he would position the phrase, it would enable and invite everyone not to feel so stiffened up about sharing.
And then they become a part of it, and there's further buy-in afterwards.
One of the things that I also think are really powerful to add on to that is like just being able to say as a leader, I don't know. Those 3 words, and being able to embrace that in front of your team will actually understand that it's okay to say it. A lot of people are afraid to say that. A lot of people always have an answer to clap back on everything, even if they don't know, and even if they make it up, just because they're afraid that if they don't know, that they would look dumb ultimately, right? Yeah. But if you as a leader kind of embrace that, you have a team that will look up to you and say, yeah, I actually don't know either. And that's okay. We all find out together, right? That's kind of part of it. But go on.
I mean, I think that's a great way to bring down the walls for everyone that's in the room and help him. The last one is purpose, and he really highlights and dives into this because he said purpose holds the team together. It is going to make that mission a lot better, and he uses Navy SEALs as an example, and he uses I think it was Shake Shack in the book. I think the phrase is like make him feel at home. And there's Shake Shack CEO would say that. So when you're delivering that food and that experience, you want them to feel like they're home, like that to be their mentality. With Navy SEALs is earn your trident every day. So, and the whole purpose was like, look, if you're not at your best with every single mission, all these men and women around you, you're putting their life at risk. So just the way you tried hard and try to be perfect to earn the trident, with every mission, you have to keep that trident. And I think these are things that I think us as leaders, and I'm guilty of this sometimes too, we don't dive in enough to remind the team it's okay to fail. It is okay to make a mistake, have a conversation. But the most important thing with your intent has to, as a metaphor, to keep your trident every day with the purpose that you bought into. Because if you don't have that purpose, you lose the team as a leader, but also as an employee for people to trust you.
Well, thank you, Prince of Bosnia, for that great book analysis and also synopsis.
Can I see the book real quick?
Yeah. Definitely check it out if you're looking for a good book on culture. It sounds like it's a great read. And Amer, what do you rate this?
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10?
9 out of 10.
So
I really liked
it's a rookie score, but that's still high.
Yeah.
I know you only rate things usually 9.5, 9.7 or above.
Too many pages.
That's too many pages. I know.
Not enough pictures.
Can we get it in ChatGPT?
No pictures.
Not enough pictures.
ChatGPT, tell me the whole book in 100 words.
With pictures.
Be nice to each other, be kind to each other, and treat people well.
Yep.
That's probably what it would say.
Probably.
Yeah. So, anyways, with that, guys, that's a wrap, guys. The Lean Mean Business Machine, I think the great talent shift. I think one thing we really talked about that was really unique about this is there's a lot of things that are happening. It's not just one little thing that's happening. There's no right answer or wrong answer. there's a lot of stuff going on right now in the world. And there's a lot of changes that are happening from where you're hiring to the office, the company culture, to how people are getting treated. And there's a lot of things that are happening. And we hope that people who listen to this pod here just maybe got a spark from something that we've shared here. And that's the goal of this pod always, right? So make sure if you enjoyed this pod, you like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend, or tell us what you think by DMing us on social media. We're available everywhere: TikTok, X, IG, LinkedIn, YouTube. Just type in Awesome Pod to find us. And don't forget, please leave us a review or rating on your favorite podcast streaming platform, wherever that might be. Or if you really do enjoy us and you're listening to this, jump over to YouTube. That's where we'll be found mostly. We're a video-first podcast. We fly location to location to shoot this as a team, not only for the dynamics, as you saw probably or heard during this podcast, but also for the highest quality experience. And don't forget, subscribe to us at awesomepod.com, where you can sign up to our newsletter, get spicy takes from us. Amir's been dropping some real spicy takes about all sorts of different things recently. If you like what he's talking about, come jump over and tune into us. Next week, we'll be back. We'll be back with episode number 39. This one's interesting. Is D2C or direct-to-consumer dying? It's a really interesting topic to talk about. So with that, we'll see you. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next pod.
Welcome to the Awesome Pod, where we talked a lot. E-com was the path that we walked a lot. But now the question is, will you subscribe or not?